All right, Kevin. So with that as a backdrop, welcome to the show, buddy. We appreciate you coming.
Hey, pleasure to be here. Interesting times, but I'm looking forward to having some fun today.
Yeah, so I got some questions, and then we can go whatever direction you want. I read that the Harvard Business Review put out like numerous studies recently, and they talked about how companies, successful companies, like thrive during and post-recession. So I'm actually curious first, instead of talking about today, how you or your partners survived and thrived during like the 08, 09 recession. So we can transition into lessons maybe.
Yeah, so I'll even do one even further back if you'd like.
Yeah.
I go back. I mean, I'm an old entrepreneur now. I used to be a younger entrepreneur, but 1990, which is 30 years ago, we had a company that was taking off. We were doing about $100 million a year, 2 million a week in sales in the as seen on TV space. And so the Gulf War hit. Now, I don't know if where you were at that time when the Gulf War hit, but we were doing business in Europe and all across the US, Latin America, a little bit in Asia, but we really had kind of two beachheads. We were in Philadelphia, we were in London, and we were in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And Gulf War hits. Overnight, our sales went down by 90% because the whole world was focused on, oh my God, what's happening over there? This is in the days of, I think it was General Schwarzkopf and those kind of things. So so what I actually started doing, this was my very first book, The 100 Best Spare Time Business Opportunities Today. 1990, Wiley and Sons, bestseller, had 6 reprints of this book, but it was all about let's get a second income. And so being an entrepreneur, dealing with inventors and entrepreneurs, my world was helping small business people, entrepreneurs, people with products, inventors, etc., take their business to the next level. And so I said to myself, our business went like this, but when times are tough, as you mentioned, some companies can thrive. So this is what's happening right now in my industry. I'm going to show you an article that I saved here if I can find it. Let me see where that went. Here we go.
And then for the audio, we can tell them what they're looking at because we're going to have this audio and video.
Right. So this is I'll show you this. It says, TV stations see audiences spike. And then the rest of the title, as advertisers drop. Okay. So what you have is ratings are spiking. Why? People are at home. They're not out running around. But advertisers are going down to the cellar because the movie theaters, the entertainment, the concerts, the restaurants, everybody is not advertising. Same thing was happening. Ratings were plummeting for TV shows, infomercials, because people were watching the news. But then as they watched the news, they were still on TV, so they were there on TV. We started making big media deals because we were the guys that were able to pay money to get to the folks that were sitting at home, but watching television, and then eventually they started buying. And so our sales went like this, and when they came back even stronger than they were before the crisis because we were now connecting with a lot of additional media outlets, cutting deals and saying, okay, your other advertisers are gone. We're here. We're here for the long haul because we're in the business of B2C. And I've been a B2C marketer for 40 plus years. So, it's been a good thing for us. So I think now is the time to double down.
Exactly what I say.
Acquisition, et cetera, right? You know it.
I love it. But you also said at the very beginning, you said at the very beginning, we were just chatting offline and you said, yeah, you did like 80 some odd events or whatever it was, 100 something events last year. So now here you are again, major curveball comes at you. So I like to hear what you're doing now to adjust, and then maybe what some of these real estate investors might want to think about doing to adjust, because as much as they know they got to think long term, they're probably stuck in this, in this hole in this space.
Right. Well, one thing, so yeah, the events that I've been going to, I have a couple different kinds of events. I do corporate events, annual corporate events, trade shows, Microsoft, Pfizer Pharmaceutical,
Wow.
AT&T, big stuff like that. So those are actually starting to, for now, there's a lot of virtual aspects to those kinds of things, because these companies are still hiring speakers. They just aren't getting together face to face. So, so there are still some good virtual opportunities there. But at the end of the day, one of the things that when I would go to events to speak, people would come to me and ask me for help and for advice. And so this is sort of, I've been a mentor and or consultant, business coach for many years now also. So one of the things that we've kind of moved from is when we were getting together face to face with people, and then we would connect with them face to face on our coaching and our mentoring. Now we're taking it to a Zoom kind of a situation, just like you and I are talking right now. It's a pretty good experience, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Zoom, they've had a few challenges with all kinds of extra users now, but I'm actually, so I'm able to do me to 10 people on a Zoom and be a mentor and a coach and cover a lot of ground. It's sort of, I'm sort of becoming like an advisor, a board of advisor to companies in the process. So it actually, I can do a lot more Zoom kind of interactions than I can fly to, Berlin, Germany, meet, a couple hundred or a couple thousand people and filter down a couple of good clients from that. So if you work efficient and you're focused in doing it, you can actually, my speaking business is going to change, but it's going to be more speaking over the internet and speaking on Zoom and things like that. Certainly in the short run.
Yeah, for sure. So let's kind of niche down now and talk about real estate peeps listening, the wicked smart listeners. If you could think of 2 or 3 things that they might want to be thinking about or doing during this chaotic time, what do you think it might be? I mean, because thankfully we're booming, as I told you, but there's a lot of people that there's either fight or flight, but too many people like freeze, like I can't do anything. And that's probably the wrong thing to do. So any advice for them?
Well, yeah, I mean, so I think number one, I'm generally a pretty positive person. I live in Florida. There's lots of talk about when things will come back a little bit, and I think it's going to happen in stages in different parts of the country. I hope it goes slow. I'm okay with keeping people at home for a little longer time right now. I mean, I saw they just opened Jacksonville Beach, for example, and I'm like,
oh, did they?
I don't know if that's a great idea. I live in St. Pete, and I used to have a house right on the beach. I'm on the bay now, but I was up jogging this morning, but keeping my distance. So I from a real estate standpoint, though, I think that I don't know what kinds of folks you've got out there that what side of the business they're in, but one question that I would have is people that are buying real estate or thinking about buying real estate are also in one of these states of not knowing. So how many folks out there maybe could be putting on information seminars like webinars like we're doing right now. Hopefully, as you create content, I mean, the beauty of the internet is it costs nothing to get on the internet and talk like we're talking. So now your cost is getting customers, the customer acquisition cost of getting people to come to the discussion. But if I were in the real estate business, I would be creating some kind of a weekly forum, whether it's daily, weekly, twice a week, twice a month, once a month, whatever it is, creating content for your customers, keep communicating with your customers, keeping in touch with your folks, having guests on, having experts on. I mean, today I'll probably do 4 or 5 of these kind of interactions that we're doing, and people are asking me to participate. I'm okay to do 2, 3, 4, 5 in a day, not every single day necessarily, but if you don't ask, you don't get, right? So it's funny because I'm watching and I saw Mark Cuban and I saw Barbara Corcoran, and hey, I'm out there doing some of the same stuff, and I love watching that. And it's so educating the marketplace, educating your customers now can bring more customers in. So as things start loosening up, where are they going to go? Oh, they're going to feel comfortable with you because they've been on your podcast and your webinars, kind of ongoing. So I just think, having full contact, creating content, giving lots of good information, having lots of guests, putting it out there is a great place to be right now.
Yeah. So back to what you said earlier, doubling down, they could just be the guide and the advice and the kind of the lifeline for these guys. Cause I agree. The buyers and sellers they're freezing too. And luckily in our niche, Kevin, I didn't tell you at the beginning, but we buy and sell on terms. So the banks tightening up is perfect. And I mean that in a positive way, because now we can help all these buyers and sellers that can't go conventional. So yeah, really good advice. So don't be afraid of the camera. Don't be afraid of Zoom. Get your butt out there and help, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Don't be afraid. I mean, I know people that don't know if they can do it. So maybe they need a little practice or a little coaching before they do. I mean, there's lots of little techniques. I know Zoom has their own little courses that they give on how to put on a Zoom properly with with the right look, feel. I mean, one of the first things I did when because I had a home office that I'm sitting in right now, but I've never been more aggressive in terms of being on the internet. And I found out, well, wait a minute, I've got we've got it's a fairly decent sized home, lots of televisions. I got about 4 or 5 of them on at all times because I'm watching advertisements, I'm watching news, I'm watching this, I'm watching that. But we also have multiple users. I quadrupled the speed of my internet, and that was a big thing because one of the last things you want to have if you're recording something is in midstream, it's not getting the internet speed right, and all of a sudden you've got issues with editing the content, et cetera, et cetera. So I always say get comfortable, get a good home office, get a place that's comfortable, get the right internet speeds, and be ready to hunker down and create some great content.
Yeah, and when I read the bio, I was thinking of all the cool things you've done, and obviously, among other things, like the master marketer and all these things you've had your fingers in. So I want you to address for the real estate person that I call the shiny object syndrome. Like we teach terms and they go, oh, but I could do a rehab or I could do this, and they get scattered. How important do you think it is to niche or to stay focused on a niche versus being everything to everybody? Just your thoughts on that.
I would say this. I think I like the concept of the niche, which gives you the ability. I have a saying, and it actually was one of my books, how to become a key person of influence. Okay, and so this was one of my books, a KPI. There's a 5-step system to becoming a key person of influence in your industry. So if you're in real estate, there's a 5-step system you can use to be the most sought after person in your niche. Now, as you create that really drive towards coming to you, you might be able to add on some things, but I don't believe that being the jack of all trades in the beginning is good. For me, like I started as seen on TV infomercial guy. I created the infomercial, did hundreds and hundreds of infomercials, Tony Little, Jack LaLanne, George Foreman, et cetera, et cetera. That was my niche. And then I got on Shark Tank, and it's like, oh, okay, but Kevin can invest in more than just products. he's a shark. He can do other things. So that opened me up. But I spent 30 years in a solid niche of being the product guy, the As Seen on TV guy, right? I owned AsSeenOnTV.com, etc. And so one of the things, just to throw some thoughts out there, for example, how I became a powerful force in my world, it started back in the early 80s. I ordered cable television. My very first cable package was a 30-channel cable package. And I'll never forget the first time going through all 30 channels. I got 24 hours of sports, ESPN, 24 hours of movies, HBO, 24 hours of music, MTV. I got to the very last channel, it was channel 30. It was the Discovery Channel, and there was nothing there. It was just bars, colored bars on the screen. So I called the cable company and I said, hey, I love the 29 channels I'm getting, but I'm paying for 30. What's happening to channel 30? They said, oh, Discovery's a brand new channel. Just put it on there, last channel. It's only an 18-hour-a-day channel. 6 hours is going to be colored bars. And that's when the light bulb went off. This is back in the early 80s. I said, so if I have something to put in that 6-hour block, can we do a deal? They said, come on down. Went down, talked to him. I ended up signing a multi-year contract for 6 hours a day nationwide on the Discovery Channel back in the early 80s. And that was generating $28 million a year in sales for me back in the day. So the reason I tell you all of this is I'm a guy that started in the unsold media business. That was me. I'm buying the dead time. I went around the world, went to Europe. Rupert Murdoch launched Sky Channel. I was buying his dead time. I went in 1991, went to the Middle East, Sheikh Salah Camel. He had 5 Arabic channels. They went dark at midnight, came on at 6 a.m. I bought the 6-hour block, 5 channels a day, 30 hours a day in the Middle East, dubbed into Arabic. We went into Latin America, did Spanish and Portuguese, Asia, etc. Reason I'm telling you all of this is I know real estate agents that are doing this on radio. There's a lot of unsold radio time. So in Tampa, Florida, for example, you can get on radio AM for $300 a half hour, and you own that block. Sign a 13-week run for $4,000. You've got a 30-minute show every week on radio, rather, blasting out there. And I say on radio, you could actually video record it and have a simulcast on video also. But I know people that are using this to build their brand, boost their business, and crush it. So, I mean, radio is just recording. You can do it kind of like we're doing with Zoom. You can go in. Go ahead. Sorry.
My bad.
No problem.
Sorry, guys. I'll have to edit that.
Okay. Yeah.
Went down the wrong hatch.
Stay healthy. All right. Okay.
All right.
So
I hope the wicked smart listeners are hearing that, because here's a chance to not only be in their niche, but to go out and like scream from the rooftops about it.
Yeah, and one last thought too. Radio is good, but so in Tampa, Florida, we have a cable operator, Frontier Communications. Used to be Bright House, but they have 1.4 million homes, and you can buy 30 minutes of local access for about $200 on the cable channel. Okay, that's how I started. When I told you back in the early 80s, I was on Discovery Channel. I was on the local access Discovery Channel in Cincinnati, Ohio, that was only going to hundreds of thousands of people at the time. But when I went nationwide, I was going to tens of millions. But on a local level, I can go to Frontier and buy 30 minutes of just local access for $200. And now, of course, I now have to create a video to put in there, but you can have a weekly show, your own video show as a realtor. So there's radio, there's TV, and now is the time, because I mean, here's another one. The ratings soar, and ads vanish at CNN, right? I mean, this is very tough. So it's a brutal world to be in the media business right now. But this is good for marketers like ourselves, because we can use it to build our brand and create a following.
So real briefly on that, Kevin. So how would they? So the wicked smart listeners are hearing this, going, okay, great. Where do they start? Like, do they call the radio directly? Do they call a broker? How do they start? How do they break into that to find that dead time?
So I would say this, because in each local market, I don't know. It should be easy. There may be some challenges, but I would just call the local cable operator and say, I want some local access time. That's what it's called.
Okay.
And so when these cable companies got the charter to put cable into the community, generally the local governments required them to provide local access to local entrepreneurs, something a lot of people don't know anything about. I learned about this in the early 80s because when I went and sat down with my cable operator who was running Discovery, they said, we have a beautiful studio here and we are encouraged to give local entrepreneurs access to our facilities. So when I tell you the deal that I cut initially, I went into the cable operator. I said, I want to do something on this Discovery Channel. They said, we will produce a 30-minute show for you here in our studios, 3 cameras, audio, video, editing, the whole thing. We'll produce it and we'll run it 30 times for how much? $800 total dollars all in. Wow. So it was less than $1 a minute for the ad, because I was running 30-minute shows, 900 minutes of airtime, and a production of a 30-minute infomercial for $800. So, I mean, but this was the local cable operator. But also call the local radio station. You want to get to the AM stations to begin with, because that's where you can get the best deals. And Sunday morning on AM radio, if you tune in, you'll hear Saturday, Sunday mornings, a lot of times you'll hear the guys selling vitamins and pitching different things. They're used to doing these deals. And so it depends on how competitive the market is. When I said 300, that's for a small town like St. Pete. You know, if you're in Los Angeles, it might be 800. I don't know. But if you're in Paducah, Kentucky, it might be $50. Okay. Yeah. You know, so you got to negotiate, right?
Yeah. No, very cool nugget. I love it. So in the last 5 minutes or so, Kevin, what maybe something I didn't ask you that you wanted to share with these guys, a nugget or two that they can work on during this chaos and challenging time, because the series is thriving in chaos. And then obviously the best ways to reach you and any other links you want to give them, of course.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, we've talked a little bit about, you know, kind of doubling down and stuff, but I think I want to say this. When I'll never forget, I'm one of 6 kids and I have 2 older sisters, and my mom, her father was a bank president. And when I was growing up, she's like, I want you to be a doctor or a lawyer. And so I was the 4th of 6, and my one older sister married a doctor, one married a lawyer. So when I came along, I said, Mom, we got that covered in the family. I'm going to be the entrepreneur. And she said, what do you mean? I said, I'm quitting college. And so my junior year in college, I dropped out. I had 25 employees in a business that I was running while I was in college. And she still said, no, I really want you to finish college. I said, well, you know, I ended up starting a direct to the consumer business. She said, wait a minute, your sister married a doctor, your other sister married a lawyer, and you're going to sell products direct to the consumer competing against like Walmart? And she says, what are you thinking? I'm like, so I said, Mom, I'm just telling you, I've uncovered something very powerful, this unsold media, and I can get products and buy them straight from China, bring them in, ship them straight to the consumer. And by the way, this is before Bezos started Amazon, before QVC. I'm doing all this. So it's my focus was customer acquisition, and it has been for 40 years. How do you acquire customers at the best and lowest rate? Now, in real estate, it's still about customer acquisition, getting listings, getting buyers. And we have some campaigns. I had a campaign pre-coronavirus. We were doing about an $18 customer acquisition cost. We call that a CAC. CAC, customer acquisition cost. We've tested some new things, tailored it to the virus kind of language a little bit. Hey, working from home, doing this, doing that. We're doing a $5 customer acquisition cost. So slashed it by almost 70%. Now is the time to try some new tests. Get out there, put some content out, see what you can do to acquire customers. I know it may be tough in real estate. I don't know. I haven't tried it, but maybe you can offer a free report of some kind.
Yeah.
Real estate during the Corona crisis, and people will click, and now now you're building a list. And if you came out of this crisis in 90 days with a list of 100,000 people because they ordered your free report, you're going to go crush it. So that's kind of my low-hanging concept here for anyone out there. Double down, go do some testing, create some content, and get a new customer acquisition model.
I love it. For the Wicked Smart listeners, you just got another nugget. I mean, act on that today. It's useless without acting on it. And what's the best way to reach you, Kevin, if they want to get a hold of you or some other link you might want to share?
Yes, great. And by the way, I love how all these little things. My other book was called Act Now. Okay, so
love it.
But get me at kevinharrington.tv. That's my website. I've got a bunch of free downloads there. And right now, it's all about giving back to the community. And one of my mentors said it best, Zig Ziglar. You can get everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. And that's what I'm all about right now during this crisis, just giving back to the entrepreneurial community. And if anybody has any ideas or thoughts, products, bring them my way. Love to hear it. But I'm just here to support your network. And hopefully we've had a good session here today. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it very, very much, Kevin. Go off and make it super productive. And I'll give these guys a teaser and let them know that you and I lightly talked about perhaps maybe coming to one of the events and speaking someday. So I appreciate that.
Okay, good.
Thanks,
good
buddy. Make it a great week.
All right. Take care. Stay safe and healthy.
You too.
Bye-bye.